Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel is challenging an order by the Department of Energy, which is forcing Consumers Energy to continue operating the J.H. Campbell coal-fired power plant. That plant, located west of Grand Rapids, was scheduled to shut down last year, but the Department of Energy has repeatedly issued 90-day orders requiring consumers to continue operating it. The department claims there is an energy emergency in the Midwest caused by insufficient power. Environmental groups, however, claim there is no emergency and the orders are a gift to the coal industry. Attorney General Nessel says her office will file a request for a rehearing on the order. On the other side, State House Republican Brian Posthumus says he supports the federal order keeping the Campbell plant open. He says shutting down the plant would raise energy bills. He also says the House Republicans do not favor any specific type of power generation.